Hello, everybody. My name is Dale Richardson. I'm here to talk to you about a little situation going on with my life. I live in North Battleford, Saskatchewan, in Canada. Um, where to begin? Let's just kind of start. There's a little bit of an issue that has been happening with me and my wife. We've had some issues, which is normal domestic situations, not getting along, whatever. In December, my wife and I were having some issues, and my mother-in-law had showed up to the house with my pastor as well. When I talked to my wife about our daughter and walked out of the room, and she apparently, I guess, called and said that she was afraid of me. And this was news to me because I was on the phone talking to my daughter. Um, Her mother, there was ensuing argument with her mother because she wouldn't leave the house and that sort of thing. Fast forward, her mother told me that she hated me. I ended up making something for her and the exchange student that had come. That was sent off. Moving forward, my oldest daughter, who had a rocky relationship with my wife, she was in the hospital. She was assaulted, and she was sexually assaulted and abused multiple times in the hospital. After she had come out of the hospital, or while she was in the hospital, I went to visit her. My mother and father-in-law tried to talk me out of going to visit her, and my wife also tried to talk me out of visiting her. I went ahead and visited her anyway. And when I saw the condition that she was in the hospital, I knew that I needed to take her out because it was breaking my heart to see how she was being treated in the hospital and what the situation was. Now, when I brought my daughter back here, my wife had threatened to tell me that she was going to end the relationship, which at that point, as a father, when your daughter is being sexually assaulted and assaulted repeatedly, your desire is to protect her. So I brought her here anyway. I said if that was the case, then so be it, because I have to look out for my child when she doesn't have anybody there. That's what parents do. When my wife had issues, her parents came and helped her out, so I don't see how this is any different. Well, when my daughter came, she came and my family came to help drive her over here, and she came with us to church. And my wife wanted to have she generally had an issue whenever my side of the family comes over. My wife is white. And when my family came, there'd always be problems. And when my family came to visit, and my daughter came to visit, she came to start fighting over the naps. And when her family's around, she would generally disregard naps and so forth, and she would never let our daughter sleep over at any of my family members' house, and she would cite all kinds of reasons as to why the black side of the family couldn't see our child, which I really think that's ridiculous because regardless of the situation, every child needs both parents. That's just the way it is. Anyway, I told her, I said, if you are going to have a problem with how my family seeing our daughter, then you need to come in and tell them that after they've driven 6 hours from Calgary that they're going to not be able to see their relative and my daughter to see her sister. So I didn't think she was going to come in and do it. So I sent my oldest daughter to the mother's room at the church to go and put her sister for a nap. And my wife ended up storming in, so I ran over. My wife ended up losing her mind and screaming, kicked a chair, swore, held somebody inside of the mother's room, and didn't want to let him out when I had to tell her you need to let him go because that would be forcible confinement. Then she came over and assaulted my daughter in the hospital, cursed my mother while I was holding our daughter inside of the church. After that, they set up a schedule just to kind of get us through things. And when I wanted to take a little bit of time because I was stressed out watching my little daughter pull her hair out as hard as she could and be unconsolable because she has just watched her mother lose her mind and assault her sister, she was pressing me, and I said, no, I'm going to take a couple of days. I need to go to Calgary and relax with my family. Well, a lawyer named Clifford Holmes, who goes to my church, threatened me and called me and told me that I was making a mistake. Gary Lund, also a chartered accountant at my church, also called me and threatened me and told me that I was making a mistake. For what? They're talking to me. They know me. Why would they treat me this way? Anyway, I called the crisis line, and they told me to stay where I was and to not do anything because of the situation. my wife set up that the locks were changed in my house, so that if I had left the daughter here and went to an appointment, they would have locked me out and I would have never seen her again. My mother was with me, so they couldn't have locked me out. So I came back and I said the locks are changed, and they were like, "Oh no, we have a mediation set up." So she had a mediation set up with people that she specifically handpicked beforehand. I had no knowledge of it and set this up. I was suffering from the worst depression and anxiety of my life. I also suffered from ADHD. In that mediation, they tried to compel me to throw my daughter, who was repeatedly sexually assaulted, on the street, and my wife had assaulted her inside of the church, and they wanted me to throw her out on the street to suit my wife. They minimized what she had done and treated me with the most amount of discrimination I've ever experienced in my life. I had a person laughing at me, telling me that I had no case and all these kinds of things. When my wife broke into my Facebook account and took the messages between me and my daughter where she said she felt like killing herself after my wife had assaulted her after being sexually assaulted repeatedly and assaulted previously, she took it to the mediation and said that my daughters could not be left alone with the other daughter because she was going to kill herself. And they justified my wife's behavior. And I said that treachery is not acceptable, but they justified it. They minimized her assaulting my daughter and everything else like that. When I fell to my knees and said, "What more do you want? My life?" they all stood there and looked at me with no expression on their faces. One woman told me, Dawn Lund, she's like, "Oh, we need to keep Dale around so we can teach Karis how to be black." This is so racist. For what? This is the way that they treated me. It went on and on. Even when the pastor started to break down and cry and said, "Listen, I have a daughter, don't do this," they had no expression and they were adamant. And when it came down to dealing with the best interests of the child and how things were done, they gave all the favor to the white wife and said that she needed to be with her mother more than her father. Well, the Saskatchewan law says otherwise. And when I tried to talk to them about it after, when they were forcing me to capitulate to these unjust terms because I could barely speak based on my duress, my only reply was, "Do I have a choice?" Every question was answered, "Do I have a choice?" And then they said to me that they loved me and that it doesn't matter what happened. What matters is what happens going forward. Well, for the next couple of weeks, they didn't give me even a text. I was struggling with the worst depression of my life. I was trying to stay alive and not kill myself. And did anyone give me a text message? No. The daughter that they wanted to throw me out on the street, even though she was suffering herself, was the only one that was there for her father. Even my wife left me there, knowing my condition, and did not care. But she has told me many times before that the best outcome in this situation is for you to die. When I tried to talk to the people about the mediation, Gary Lund said, "I don't feel the need to rehash this." And none of them wanted to come and talk to me. None of them wanted to face me. I talked to them repeatedly trying to address this. Nobody wanted to. I went to the next two elders, Polly Rogers and Bill Gates. Bill Gates met me with silence, and Polly told me what she thought I was going to do rather than asking me. And when I told her, "I've never talked to you about my marriage before, or anybody. What makes you think I would start now?" Then she said, "Well, anyway, I don't want to get involved because it's just hearsay." That's what people in positions of leadership are supposed to deal with, these kinds of situations. That is what it's for. If you cannot deal with those kinds of situations, then you shouldn't be a leader. Then I went to talk with the pastor. No, didn't get anywhere. I went ahead and talked to the church board. Didn't get anywhere. I spoke with the pastor. I was angry because of the treatment that I've gotten. I had a disagreement with some of the people in the church with some of the things that they said. I didn't like the tone that I spoke to them with, And I apologized because I was wrong in the way that I spoke to them. Even these are the same people that have done this evil to me, but I still apologize to them because they've done something wrong to me, it does not give me the right to go back and do something wrong to them. So I gave them apologies that even one of them said that he's never heard somebody denounce themselves with such strong language. And there'll be links to this apology below this video. After that, I was talking to the pastor because they were treating me with disregard. One of the women talked to me about women's rights, and I got angry. I didn't say it to her, but I said to the pastor and other people, how can they talk to me about women's rights? What women's rights did they afford my daughter who is black or Métis? Did they deny her because of the black side or the Métis side? Which one? Because when they wanted to throw a woman in a vulnerable position and take advantage of a father in a vulnerable position to do something that would have essentially killed her, that's wickedness. The pastor, I said I didn't want to serve with them, and I got angry. I'm impulsive with ADHD. It's something that comes with it. But I started to think about it. I shouldn't punish innocent people for the actions of others. I told the pastor, I said, wait. I told him many times, do not bring this to the board because I don't want to. I said, I want to do it on my own terms, and you're pressuring me and backing me into a corner. I mentioned my ADHD. He kept telling me that he wanted me to do it and that I can't back out and trying to force me to. Then he told me that he already told people, and I have that in text messages. So instead of looking bad and going back and saying the truth, he wanted to go ahead anyway. And so when he went to the board meeting, he went and he took that to the board meeting, and 6 of those people that I had issue with that were in the mediation sat on the board. Well, what do you think they did when they had that opportunity? And I told 2 of the other elders, Polly and Cyprian. Cyprian is one of the people that was also part of that mediation. Those are 2 elders. I told them, and Arlen Kapiniak, which is the head deacon, I told them that I am not going to resign from any position because I don't want to punish innocent people unfairly because of the actions of a few. They quickly got out of the prayer meeting, and they went ahead and had a conference. And when that board meeting happened, the pastor informed me that they rejected the direct request letter that the corporation that I work for had sent over to them, which was offering them a COVID-19 work and getting the Legionosis protocols in place to make sure that they're followed so that when they open the church up that no one would get sick and that they would follow regulations, and offered to do it to them at cost, and offered all the other houses of worship in North Battleford to have any work relating to COVID-19 done at cost. They rejected it, and the pastor told me that nobody knew enough about it, so they just didn't want to do it anyway. Well, they took me out of a position that I told them not to. And then when I went back and I talked to the pastor, they said that you lied. You need to go and fix this. Well, he finally admitted that he lied, but he said he's just going to go and ask the board if they thought he made a mistake and then you do something about it. Well, how do I expect to get fairness when I have a conflict of interest at the board? I don't. So I asked for a special meeting for the church, which I'm afforded to by the church manual and also with the Not-for-Profit Act. When I asked for the special meeting, they offered me a board meeting to sit on the board for 20 minutes. I can't name any names, and I can't attack anybody. And 6 of those people who were in that mediation also sit on the board, and they are the most influential people in the church. How was I expected to get fairness in that situation? So when I went and I appealed to the conference president, he met me with silence. I texted him, I phoned him, and he was part of the email communications. He did nothing. I then went ahead and continued to talk to the General Conference and the North American Division, because the North American Division has racial segregation in the regional conferences. So I addressed both of them directly because they have an institution that is still about segregation. So I could not expect fairness on a case of race when they are still having open discrimination against black people in the United States. So, going forward, some of the church members that were the 7 people that were involved in this mediation had decided that they were afraid and called the RCMP to bring some false allegations against me. The RCMP that questioned me, she was nervous when she was talking to me because she didn't see something wasn't sitting right with her. Because when they came by my house, my daughter said that he's at a Bible study. And I was at a Bible study with a man who just got out of prison, who the pastor himself would not even visit. So when I came really unprepared because I just came from a Bible study because I was like, well, what do they want? And they came and talked to me. And I explained to them the situation. Then I gave them a book that was placed in evidence called The Great Controversy. And I said, if you read this, you will understand a lot of what is going on with this situation. Because it actually speaks a lot about situations like this. After that, I went back home. And throughout the week, I began to collect some of these pertinent information. Well, I went back to the RCMP station. And I brought 91 pages of information to the RCMP station. When I asked the RCMP for the names of the officer who interrogated me, and I specifically asked for the female officer, they gave me the names of 2 men, and not the people that were attached to it. So I spoke to the officer, and it wasn't the right one. And when I tried to ask him who the woman was, he kept avoiding her name or saying her badge number. So then I ended up writing a letter, and I wrote it to the Saskatchewan government and the federal government, and I asked about this and this misconduct. And I came the next day and I brought that to the RCMP station. And when I brought that off to the RCMP station, then they came up with the name. And I talked to the sergeant, and I recorded the conversation because he's a public servant. And after I made that complaint to the Civilian Review and to the Prime Minister, to members of the House of Commons, to the leader of the Conservative Party and the leader of the NDP Party, the members of the Saskatchewan government, the Premier, when Scott Moe talked about there was no place for racism in Saskatchewan, he showed me that he doesn't care about racism. There were so many abuses of human rights that have been done in this place that it's not even funny. This short video isn't even enough time to talk about it. There is more reading in the links below for people to understand what was going on. And on top of that, they came back, the RCMP, after I had that conversation. They came to my house and tried to return evidence to me. And I said, no, I'm not taking evidence back because that's illegal. I talked to them about what was in the information that I sent over to them. And you'll also see the text messages of all the lies James Kwan has told, and other people, and how he did nothing when my wife said that she was coming to take the car that she had allowed me to use, because we had 2 vehicles. I had an SUV. She pressured me to get rid of my SUV and told me that I would take the car. She bought another car, but she bought an SUV, but left the car in her name. And when I left my older daughter to watch my younger daughter, she got angry because she hates her. She said that I needed a letter from a psychiatrist to allow my older daughter to watch my younger daughter. Well, the law doesn't say that. And I told her that. So after that, she talked to the pastor and sent a group message that I'm going to come and do that. Did he ask for fairness? Absolutely not. The reason being because he was angry, because I called him on his lies and the things that he was doing to damage my reputation. So he wanted to have nothing to do with me. Instead of being fair in the position he's supposed to be, he didn't. She came with her parents and extorted the car from me. They cut the internet while I've opened a business. And she knew that this is something that I was trying to do to run my business. I had to go and get my own internet and so forth. And it's a good thing my daughter was here so I could use her car. You know, and then after these fraudulent charges didn't stick, on Monday my wife texts me and says, "My lawyer has advised me to not give you any access to Karis." She didn't tell me who her lawyer was. She didn't give me any reason why. She just said that. And a couple days later, she decides to FaceTime me, and I looked at my daughter, and it broke my heart how out of control she was. Like her hair was like a rat's nest. She looked like she wasn't properly cared for. Her clothes weren't even on her properly. I'm like, for what purpose? And that was the last time I've seen her. And every person in my church has cut me off. The president, who didn't even get involved when he was supposed to, sent me a no trespass order, barring me from every property that the Seventh-day Adventist Church owns in Manitoba and Saskatchewan. They've done nothing about this discrimination. From every level they've stayed silent. For what? The Black Lives Matter. They'd been apprised of the situation, but they didn't care either. Why? Because I'm a Christian? Because almost every one of my human rights is being violated. These church members used the RCMP as the hammer to try to beat me, but they did it illegally. Now there's probably over 150 pages of information, and I'm not even done yet. But I'm going to supply it, and there'll be another video that will go over the extent of this. Thank you for your time, and please share this video because people need to know what is going on in North Battleford, what is going on in the Seventh-day Adventist Church, what the RCMP is doing when they're talking about no systemic racism, how many people are involved in this. It is disgusting. The media knows about it. CBC, who is a public corporation, has refused to do anything about this. The Battlefords now sent people to my house for me to spend money on it. And when these questions were addressed at the city council, they did not report on it. I will never spend $1 on dishonest corporations like that. People need to know. Please spread this video because something horrible is happening right now beneath everybody's noses, and the world needs to know about it.